Happy Monday and welcome to our mindful start to the week with Anetta and I, where we lead you into a lovely foundational start to your week. We've been here since the start of this year, and Anetta and I have just been reflecting on how far we've come. And it's a new month. And I'd just like you to reflect on how far you've come, on how proud you can be, because I don't think we give ourselves that time and space to really tap into the awareness of who we are becoming and all we are achieving. Today, we are talking about one of our favorite topics. Is your inner voice your critic or your companion? Because at the end of the day, it really does come down to how you treat yourself, how you speak to yourself is how the world reflects back to you. And Anetta and I have also been in dark seasons of mind and how we speak to ourselves. So we do speak from experience, and we know that when you're in a good mindset, speaking to yourself with kindness, compassion, grace, gratitude, you can exceed in so many levels of who you are, what dreams you want to come true. Like, it's pretty fascinating. We were just had a call, Annetta and I, and we're just like amazed at how good God is, at how good our lives are when we attune to the mind and the life that we and you deserve. So, Annetta, is your inner voice your critical companion right now?
Right now, I would say friend, but there have been times and seasons in my life where it definitely wasn't my friend. For example, like when I was growing up, I had my inner voice. It was definitely my critic for growing up as a dancer. And then
Yeah.
that me being such a critic and listening to that inner critic voice in my head, it really spirals me backwards because it was resulted me to get into a really unhealthy relationship that I look at it now that I'm thankful for it because I needed to go through those challenging times to grow. But I also see why I was getting myself into unhealthy situations because I was letting my inner voice be my critic instead of appreciating myself for who I am. And I think one of the most important things when you're learning to be friends with your inner voice is by being friends with the present version of yourself. You're not trying to be
Mhm.
somebody you used to be, and you're not trying to be somebody else. You're enjoying who you are and you're at peace at who you are currently. And I think that's like a really beautiful place to be. But it's really interesting because you and I were also talking about this not that long ago, just earlier today, about success principles and what it really takes to become the best version of yourself. If you listen to 100 interviews on successful CEOs or people who have great success in their life, they all have one thing in common. And the thing in common is resilience and consistency. And if you can consistently and continue to have the resilience to be friends with your inner voice and to appreciate yourself for who you are in this present moment, it's going to take you a lot further than beating yourself up for somebody that you're not or somebody that you're in the process of becoming. Because it's so easy for us, especially since we're here on Substack, we're writers. So, for example, when you and I got started, we got started at the same time and we had zero subscribers, we had zero followers. We just started putting our thoughts into notes, into newsletters. And we were also following people who had hundreds and thousands of subscribers. And we had two choices in that moment. We can sit there and beat ourselves up and saying, why are we not there yet? Or that's a great example, and I appreciate myself for taking the first step to get started, and I will eventually get there. So, like, really loving who you are and where you currently are. I love that. What about you?
Oh my gosh, girl, that is so important. And I'm really glad that you brought that up because if you're able to love yourself for who you are right now, it's like so mindful and present, and you're embodying like all that you are and all that you want to be. And at the same time, forgiving all that you were. That was my biggest problem back then when I was depressed. I was beating myself up for all the mistakes that I did, all the, yeah, you really just get in your inner critic of like, oh, you should have done that, you could have done that. And like you just said, that's a very prime example when you're online, especially, you have to protect your peace and curate an inner companion rather than an inner critic. Because when you're online in this kind of space and you see people with thousands of followers, with thousands of subscribers, and a lot of money and a lot of success, you can so easily fall into the trap of comparing yourself, which I did. 5 years ago, when I first started online on Instagram, I compared myself all the time. It was like more like because I had this ambition and this drive, but it was like, oh, I want to be there and I want to do this and I want to do that. And I just like fell into this hole and it just like trapped me because I was like, then from that, it led me to like this just excruciating pain whenever I went online because I didn't see myself where they were. I wasn't treating myself with grace like I am now. And I wasn't trusting. And I think when you do fall into that pattern of inner critic, which is also, we have to say, like you said, it's from your childhood, right? I think we do get it from our childhoods when we're at school. I mean, we're in the education system, right? You have to do this, you have to get good grades, you have to pass this, and you have to know all of these things and different topics. So you're already being judged from such a young age. And so then, no wonder that most of us have a massive inner critic when we're like in our 20s, like it does make me feel like, oh, our society kind of went a bit wrong there in misguiding us to become super critical of ourselves, that perfectionism became a goal, where at the end of the day, like perfectionism doesn't even exist. So why is that even a goal like that we try and attain to? And when you said that about like being on Substack, I think it's very crucial that you laid that out because for anyone that's joining us that's new here, Anetta and I came on last November. We were like, yes, this is meant to be. Like, we want to grow our newsletter. Like, we very felt much in alignment. If you come here and you don't know, that's also okay. But don't fall into the trap of comparing yourself straight away, but rather give yourself this patience that, okay, I will start to share my voice slowly because you need to share your voice. It's your voice matters, your story matters, and honestly, please share what you want. Um, and the more you share your voice based on what you're thinking, that could also be from your inner critic, the more people will connect with you. The more people connect with you is because of how real you are. So, like,
Mm.
stop comparing yourself. Like, you are you. And that's like the most beautiful gift that we all have is that we're so unique. And I think that also comes back to it, right, Anetta? That like knowing then and like tapping into the fact that you are unique, you have a unique story, background, history, characteristics, personality, and all this, like the moment you tap into that, don't you feel like that kind of floods the companionship within?
I think that's really, really well said because people don't buy brands, people buy from people. People may like a brand, but 9 times out of 10, if you're buying from a brand, you genuinely like that person and what they've created behind. Like, for example, if there's this one guy that I like to watch on Instagram, and he always has these motivational reels, and every single day he would do some kind of like encouraging positive affirmation. And then recently he wrote a book, and people weren't buying the book because they like the actual brand itself. Like, yes, that's a plus, but they like the person behind the brand. And that's how you can create purpose, and that's how you can sell being authentic and being who you truly are, because that is your superpower. That is your talent and that is your gift, being yourself, because there's nobody else in this world like you. So tap into that, you know? Find things that you like to do, find things that bring you joy, and really tap into who you are, and then start building a brand about that. Because I think personal branding is one of the biggest things, but you're not going to be able to build your personal brand if you constantly have that inner critic and you saying, oh, well, this isn't good enough, or having that perfectionism attitude of, I remember when I would make like templates on Canva, I literally would make 5 copies and then I would throw them all in the trash, and then I would try to hire somebody to make the same exact thing that I could have made and did make, because I had perfectionism issues. I was like, "It just looks like a 2-year-old made it or a 5-year-old made it." But the reality is I had to get out of my own head and accept myself for who I am in that moment and stop trying to compare my skills and my talents and my abilities to somebody else's. So it
Yeah.
really starts with, who are you? What does Grace like? Who is Grace? Where does Grace like to go get coffee? What kind of coffee does Grace like? Where does she like to go for a walk? It's all of those little things. And when you can break down those little things, then you'll truly find who you are and the people that you're meant to be around.
Yeah, totally. I like how you break that down because it's definitely my kind of style in like bringing that coaching or holistic healing through is breaking everything down into small portions because I think we get so overwhelmed at like so many things these days. And I also just want to point out from what you said is that we, you are your worst critic. Like when I finally understood that, I changed it. Like, no one would speak so much shit to you as your inner critic. Like, I really noticed that. Like, we really are our worst inner critic. And so many of my friends always remind me that because, you know, Anetta and I did our first online live summit last weekend. And it was great. But to my standards, or I wouldn't say high expectations, but I did have goals, and not all those goals were fulfilled. And so I did feel a bit disappointed. And then I remember Annetta saying, like, Grace, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, we're here and we're still doing it. We're showing up. And I was like, it's true. I was like, I need, you know, I wanted to just shake myself and I did. I just like shook it out. And then I was like, Grace, you know, like, really recently, like when I get into that bit of like frustration, you know, or like disappointment, disgrace, I'm like, no, Grace, because you're still here, you're still going, you're still thriving and like pushing through. And like some people don't even do what we do, like they dream of what we do. And I think that is a beautiful thing to always remind yourself. You are showing up on Substack or, you know, in your newsletter, you're putting your writing out there, for example, if you're here that is something that probably a lot of people always dream of. And also, like, I, you know, self published my book at 24 and I wrote it at 21. And a lot of people then in the real world are like, you wrote a book? Oh my gosh, and you published a book? And I'm like, yeah, sure, loads of people do. And then they're like, no, Grace, they don't. So it's funny because your mind tells you, like, bullshit a lot, you know? Like so many people do the same thing as you. And I'm like, no, actually, like I'm one of the minority of people that actually have gotten a book out there, done it themselves, and I'm proud of it now. And I take charge of that, you know? Like it's not like an ego fulfilled way that like, yeah, I'm so proud of myself, like look at me. It's like an embodiment of like grace. In the past decade, I've achieved so much through my mission of helping people. And that's just pure intention. And I think when it comes from pure intention of wanting to help, wanting to share, then you do just know like it's way more. Why are you laughing? It's way more aligned.
I
You
just
put me off when you giggle, girl.
Sorry, I just thought of something that I wanted to
I knew it.
but I was trying to think of, like, how to share it in a a nicer tone.
Okay. Well, David just said here, just wrote earlier today on the Inner Child Journal and exactly how I made peace with the inner critic. Great topic. I love that, David. Especially inner child. It definitely also comes down to how you speak to your younger self. That's true. Forgiving all those versions. Okay, now share what you're giggling about.
Now you're just making me giggle. But,
I
I
always
was
know now. I go live with you all the time, and then I can just tell when you're distracted and you think of something, and then I'm distracted.
it's called balance, we balance each other out, but I was just thinking on, like, how one of my mentors always says, he's like, "Once you're exposed to doing this kinds of work, like, you can't be unexposed." And I think that's so true. So, like, you have a choice every single day. Are you gonna let your inner voice be a critic by saying, "You don't need to do these things," and put it off? Or are you gonna let your inner voice be your friend and really lean into what you've been exposed to? Like, once you're exposed to healing, once you're exposed to personal development, once you're exposed to a community of people that support you, you cannot be unexposed. So, moving forward, the choice is yours every single day. Am I going to continue fulfilling the work that I've been exposed to work on myself and become the best version of myself? Or am I going to sit there and watch other people do the work because I was too scared? It's one or the other, but once you like, I was laughing because he always says it like this, like, my mentor would always say, like, "Once you're exposed, you can't be unexposed, but if you guys continue now that you guys work with me, you're fucked because you've been exposed, so you have to do the work.
There's no
You
going
can't
back.
just say no. There's no going back." But it's so
I love that
true.
you just said that though, because it aligns with my monthly motto in my newsletter, Mindful Moments. We focus on an attention every month. And so this month it is stepping out of your comfort zone. And like you just said, like the majority of people look at others and think, oh, I wish I could do that. Or oh, what a dream. Like I had a yoga student tell me a few weeks ago. She was like, I told her, like, oh, I've just recently gone through a breakup. And she's like, how are you so happy? And I was like, well, I mean, of course, I've not pushed down my emotions and I've definitely been heartbroken too, and, felt sadness and, all of that comes with it. But I choose to be happy. I was like, it's my choice. And she's like, oh, I wish I could be like you. And I was like, well, you can if you want to. And she's like, no, like there's only some people that are like you. But she's like, I'm not jealous of you. It's funny how she's like, I'm not jealous of you. I'm just really happy that you can be like that. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, girl, if only you knew you could be like this too, Like, and I think when I was writing the newsletter today, I thought of her again because the way she said it to me, she's like, how are you like that? As if it's like alien. And I'm like, maybe it is because maybe not everyone chooses to be happy, or maybe not everyone chooses to have hope and be optimistic. But I do, like, that's just a part of my personality. It always has been. And it's my baseline. And I'm really glad that I'm back to it now because I have been through psychosis and depression. Don't get me wrong, but like, I do really feel that it is a choice. It's your choice to either sit there and be in a limit mindset and critic, like always like, oh, shoulda, coulda, woulda, and if and all this, and looking at people like me, like, oh, how is she doing that? Or you do it yourself, like one step at a time, and you get help, like a coach or a mentor or a therapist, because you do need other people to like, you know, push you on and get you by. Like, it's just the way we are as humans.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Emily
Emily, you're
says it
right.
takes so much work. I don't think people realize, but it is obtainable. But it's obtainable when you choose to surround yourself with the people who are going to support you. I think a lot of times, like when you are exposed to healing and to growth and personal development, the people around you that you're familiar with, they're not gonna understand. They're gonna think like woo woo, or they're gonna think, oh, it's just a little phase that they're going through. But if you're truly serious about it, then I hate to say it, but like you're gonna go through a little isolation period of figuring out who you are. Because first it starts with making the decision. Do you want better or do you not? And when you say that you want better, God is going to start removing people, places, and things that no longer serve or add value to the person that He's called you to be and the person that you are becoming. And you have to be okay with going through an isolation period. Like, I feel so much gratitude because I went through an isolation phase for quite some time. I'd say, like, at least the last 2, 3 years after, well, essentially, like, after my divorce. Like, I was 21 when I got married, 23 I got divorced, I'm 25 now, and I went through an isolation period after my divorce, and now I'm finally finding the people who get me. And it's because I took that time to work on myself and to figure out who I am and what I enjoy. Because if I can't figure out who I am, how can I explain to other people what I like to do? I sometimes I still even struggle with that. Like, it's a continuous work in progress. When people ask me, "Oh, what's your hobbies?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. So,
Well, yeah.
healing is
Mhm.
not a destination, it's a lifelong journey, but eventually, the more that you do it and the more that you stay optimistic, you will find your people. I mean, I met Grace back in October, and we met on Instagram. And if I met Grace before October or before we met, I probably would not have been ready to have and build the relationship with her that we've been able to over the past couple of months because I was still working on myself in that isolation period. And now that we have each other, we've been able to help each other grow and also build communities for people who need that on their journey. So it all starts with, do you want more or do you not?
Yeah, but a lot of people choose less because it may kind of be easier. Like, personally, I don't really see it as an easy option because I've just never been like that, like, as a person. But now I do see it. Like, I had to say no to someone the other day who wanted to coach with me because I just saw that she wasn't really ready. And I ask these, like kind of running up questions to get to know you before we start working together. And she couldn't answer a lot, like it was like, I don't know, you tell me. And I was like, okay, like I completely respect it. And, I'm non judgmental and I always, accept you as much as I can. But in that moment, I was like, well, if you can't really give me anything, then I can't really work with anything.
Yeah.
Of course, don't get me wrong. There'll be like things like, and I think it's really nice that you just said that, Anetta. You're still discovering yourself. You're still finding out your hobbies. Not everyone has like all of this laid out for them. I discovered yoga when I was 18. That's more than a decade, but it got me through uni back then. And now it's just become part of my lifestyle. But I get it. Like some of my friends are also like, I don't have anything like that. And I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to define yourself by what you do. You just got to discover it for yourself, right? I think because I've always been dedicated to that in my own personality and in my life. And then anyway, back to this woman, I was just like, oh man, like I felt bad, but I was like, you're not giving me enough to work with you. And I think when you just said that, like you were ready to meet me. And so we met each other and you reached out to me on Instagram. Now I'm really aligning with the people that are ready, because you have to be ready. I can't do all the work for you as a mentor or a coach. I can help guide you like back to yourself because at the same time, we all know, like we all have the answers within. We're just like having to remember everything. It's like uprooting everything from what we used to have in our childhood that maybe we forgot, or it's all within your heart that you just have to be reminded of the love and the light that you actually have within. But if you're already saying to yourself, I don't know, you tell me, and this kind of energy that's very like lack and limit, then that shows that you're not ready. So I guess like I'm just inviting you to kind of like think for yourself, like, are you ready? Like, are you actively working on yourself every day? Because it is a daily habit. Like, I mean, not to say you have to wake up at 5 a.m. every day, but you do have to work on yourself daily. Like, it becomes an obsession, like we were saying before, Anetta, like a healthy obsession, right? Um, but yeah, it's very multidimensional. There's not like a one fix leaflet for us to all follow. Like it's very personal and individual. I mean, that's what I also love about working with people on this individual level. But yeah, I thought I would just raise that because I think a lot of people don't really know, and that's okay. But just stop saying that you don't know because it just puts you like it emotionally blocks you from everything that you're worthy of. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it really is like just getting around the right people, just try to get around the right people as much as possible. And that's exactly what you've created. You've created your inner circle community, and you guys have you meet together, journaling sessions, Zoom calls, all of that. You literally created a community, a safe space for people to give them the opportunity to embrace who they are and give them that safe space to talk about goals, because I think it's also not you can't talk about your goals to just anybody. You can talk to your people about your goals to a certain extent, but you can't go into the details. And that's also the point of us creating these communities. You, especially with your Mindful Moments community and us coming on live on Substack every Monday. This is the community that we're building because if we're able to overcome our limiting beliefs and if we're able to overcome our challenges, anybody else can.
Yeah.
It really does start with, do you want it? And are you willing to do the work? And it starts with associating with the right people.
Yeah. And associating with your inner companion, not your inner critic.
Exactly.
And you can
Exactly.
definitely nurture and water that with the right people around you. That's so true. Ah, what a lovely healing conversation as always. So nice that so many people have joined us. Thank you so much. Annetta and I come live every Monday at 4:30 p.m. CET. And we like to talk about topics that just clearly, as you can tell, we're passionate about. And we want you to realize that you are worthy of the life that you've always dreamed of or the freedom that you always have wanted because it's within, it's not on the outside. And yeah, we're here to guide you, help you. So if ever you want us to talk about a topic, do reach out to us, let us know. I also have a community healing hearts hub, which is meant for people that are ready or already actively on their healing journey. What do I mean by that? By that, I mean that you're actively daily, like seeking ways to better yourself, to comfort yourself, to reflect, to become more aware. And these things can be like stimulated by like-minded people in a community. I mean, it's proven decades, ages ago, that we grow exponentially together, hand in hand. So on Mondays, for example, today we set small intentional goals. And these goals aren't like, I'm going to run a marathon. They're like, for example, my goal 2 weeks ago was to cut out coffee. I haven't actually had a coffee yet today. And now I've like carried on with it because I like to test myself and challenge myself. And I feel like when I'm in a community of other people, then I feel like I'm more driven to like actually push through. Do you know what I mean? Like it does make you more accountable in that way. So yeah, if you want to join, you're very welcome to, and just reach out to me and you get like a 1 month, like the first month free trial. And also, Annetta and I are still working on bringing this summit to you because it was just so transformational. And we will be working on bringing it as a course now. And it's nice to kind of openly talk about this, Anetta, because I feel like sometimes people think that we all have it together and we know what we're doing. But to be fair, the past week we were like, oh, should we just sell it as this? Should we do it as this? And now we're thinking of actually doing it rather as like modules and a course because there are so many hours. It was Saturday and Sunday, right? So how many hours was it in the end? Like 8, 9?
Really close to 8. I'd say
Crazy.
minimum 8 hours.
Yeah. And it was just so, yeah, intentional in reflections, girl. It touched me in many ways too.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for joining us today. If you're interested in getting involved in a community, Grace has her community. I have my podcast, Nourished Inside Out, if you're looking for inspiration and motivation throughout the week. And we look forward to seeing you next Monday.
Yeah. Have a good week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.